It's a slick thing.
Yes. Hello, fans. Welcome to a very special live edition of Generation Red from the brand new Generation Red Studios built just this year. I am your host, Ken.
Hello, and I am the prodigal son, the other host, Scott.
And of course, we are the kettle corn of Husker Fan Podcast, and that kettle corn will stay in this stadium all the way through the season. It's our good luck charm. Bought it at the spring game. Figure might as well have some kettle corn on the table, and it might as well have been bought at the spring game because that's the beginning of a new era. We all watched the new era begin. And to talk about the new era that began yesterday is some of our best friends from the Husker Pod universe. Starting on my left, we got Honke.
Hello.
and next to him, we got Andrew from Big Red and More.
How's it going, guys?
We're doing really good, man. This is absolutely awesome having you guys here. And then, of course, next to Scott there is the one who shall, well, not remain nameless. His name is what?
My name is Bryan, representing the Husker Army Podcast.
That's right. That's right. And hopefully Kenny's watching. Sorry, Kenny.
Yeah,
no room for you, dude.
No, you needed to make the trip here from Arizona, man. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I completely
totally
agree.
Worth it.
I absolutely, completely agree. I'd love to meet that dude and have him in the studio. It'd be pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Coming up in the near future, Scott and I will do some more shows here in the studio. We intend to have Willie Miller in to talk specifically about being that badass fullback that he was back in the 90s, early 2000s, as well as talking to him about his recovery journey that he's been on now for a few years, which I have something in common with on that. So that should be a fun conversation. We also probably have former wideout Riley Washington on sometime soon to talk about the coaching staff and talk about the comparisons between it and the coaching staff he played for. And just recently talked to Dave from Husk Guys. He wants to come and hang out with us too. So
good dude.
We got some fun stuff coming. So stay tuned for it. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like this video. And yeah, it should be fun. Tonight we're going to talk about the spring game. We've got 5 things we're going to get into. We're going to talk about the offense. We're going to talk about the defense, just kind of overall thoughts. And then, of course, we're each going to give a game ball to a player. And then we'll talk about the return of Frank to Memorial Stadium and, of course, new Herbie coming out on that motorcycle. I want that bike. I don't know about you, but I really, really want that bike.
It was nice.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about the offense, guys. Honke, we'll start with you. Your overall impressions of the offense. Was there something that stuck out to you, something that grabbed your attention and said, yeah, this is, and I know you're going to start with the green jersey, so I'm not going to let you do it. So go ahead.
I posted something on Twitter today. It was my favorite play of the game, and it's no shocker. It was the one option, the read option that Harbor ran for about 30 yards. And just to know that that's part of the offense. Now, we saw some social media of a similar play a couple weeks ago, so we knew it existed in the offense, but it's still fun to watch it be run. I think I kind of broke it down. It looked like it was a true read option. Like, I think he could have handed it off and made the right read, ran around, had good distance with his running back, so it was a well-run option. And then Tavian Thompson's downfield, 30 yards blocking, and if you're going to run option, be successful running option, you can't, it's not just on the big hogs up front. You need to have those receivers out there doing it too. And so that was a lot of fun to see. And at least for me, that was my favorite play. I enjoyed a lot of the run game that we had and a lot of the QB run game.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you. It was a lot of fun to watch them actually opening holes, especially in that first quarter and a half. It looked like that offensive line was really getting a push. They were getting 3-4 yards every time they touched the football. How about you, Andrew? Was there somebody in particular or something on that offense that grabbed your attention?
Actually, I was going to go with the offensive line and how much I seen some improvement from those guys. You know, we all know they had a tough time last year between injuries, moving guys around, things like that. But I like to see that the guys have stepped up. I'm even more excited to see what they can do come fall with having, fall camp and everything. But that's really what grabbed my attention the most, seeing some improvement there.
Alrighty, Mr. Bryan, impressions on the offense. What'd you think?
Me, I've got a soft spot. I'm a running backs guy. And what I saw was 3 capable backs yesterday.
Mhm.
Grant looked great. He's not doing any dancing. 1, 2 max cuts, north-south. Ramir running hard like crazy, as he's done every year. That's what I don't understand, why he didn't get such a shot last year.
Mhm.
And it really upsets me because that guy's got amazing potential. And then we also saw Gabe Irvin Jr., whom I think last year had a huge chip on his shoulder.
Mhm.
And he's looking to knock that off this year. You could tell just by the way they're running in between the tackles. All 3 of those guys are capable. We have a hell of a running backs table.
Yeah, that's a position group that stuck out to me too. That you kind of stole mine. So hey, you don't have to listen to me now, which is cool. So yeah, running backs, Gabe Irvin grabbed my attention immediately. He's so big, so fluid, so capable.
Legs like trunks.
Yep. He reminds me a lot of
Pork
Amon
chop.
Green.
Pork
He's
chop
got
as
that-
well.
Same build.
The big chunky legs and just strong and smooth. But yeah, overall, I thought Grant was the best runner of the day. He kind of had the best stats, and then AJ Allen was he was there, but then Emmett Johnson showed up and made some things happen. So that's the position group I'm excited about. Scott, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the offense.
Billy Kemp. I thought he looked pretty dang good. I thought he looked pretty athletic. It looked like he was incredibly quick and decisive, and he reminds me a lot of the last few wide receiver transfers that we've got that have been successful in Trey Palmer and
Samari
Torre.
Yep.
He reminds me of those guys just right out of the gate. That would be my first impression, and then just all together. I mean, looks like we could use some work in the quarterback's room if I were to say I have any critiques. But obviously we didn't get a sample of Casey Thompson, and I think that's a big factor there. But yeah, no, I agree, Brian. I agree, Dad. I mean, just our running back room, it looked a lot more like efficient running back by committee kind of setup. That's kind of how I looked at it, where you have a couple guys that you can rely on, and you know that you're not going to take too far of a step back from a Gabe Irvin or an Anthony Grant. And I mean, it looks like like what you said, Andrew, about the offensive line. It looks like they might be able to set them up with some more things as the year goes on.
Something that's interesting is we didn't see. But can you envision some 2-back offense out there where you get Gabe and you get Ramir on the
well, I mean, Janaran Bonner looked good.
Is Rhule against a wishbone?
Well, I don't think I don't know that we go full wishbone, but even
Come
just
Why the hell
just
not?
having 2 back there, if it's a shotgun, you've got two of those backs, those talented guys. I mean, they talk about 12 and 13 personnel and all that. So,
and we have
Well,
ran
look,
that in the past.
Think about this. So one of the most interesting formations that was quite successful when Sean Watson and company would use it, or not Watson, who was our Beck, Tim Beck would use it, was that diamond, that almost that reverse wishbone that we ran with Taylor. And I could see room for Janaran and Bonner in the middle there, being that big thumper. You've got Gabe on one side, you've got Grant on the other, and you've got a dude that's as big as all 3 of them at quarterback that can also keep the ball. And Rhule's a film junkie, right? He's watched probably anything and everything that's got the N on a helmet that's available in the archive. So I know he's seen it. There's no doubt in my mind he's seen it.
If there's a way to get like Harburg on the field next year, it could be in a formation like that too. Where
absolutely.
I mean, he's as much of a wildcat QB if he wasn't an every down guy, and get him on the field in a 3-back kind of setup like that. Nebraska used to do that the last year of Osborne with the wing bone, kind of the inverse
power
wishbone.
eye. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, granted, the young man's gone now. I believe he's at Florida Atlantic. Jock Hesiant. What could he have done at fullback?
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Because he's going to tear it up at Florida Atlantic. He's gonna. Is it Florida Atlantic
or Florida? I don't remember.
Florida International.
Florida International.
Oh, is it?
FIU?
There we go.
Maybe. I don't.
He's going to tear it up there, and imagine what he just could have done if he. Man, I mean, I know he's got to do what's best for him. So good luck to him.
Well, Mark Whipple didn't like running backs all that much because
he
he only wanted to run them 2 directions, right, left, and into linebackers. That's all he wanted.
Speaking of things that we did not like, if we were watching the offense, what were some things that were areas of concern for you gentlemen out of the offensive side of things?
Start with you, Bryan. Go ahead.
And see, this is where I got to go against you on this one, Andrew. The offensive line's run blocking. To me, I didn't see a whole lot of big holes opening up. Occasionally there was. Their pass blocking to me looked great. It looked night and day from the last 2 years we've seen.
Yeah.
But the run blocking just kind of it bothered me. I didn't see a whole lot of push, and it was bothering me that we're seeing a 3-3-5 get more of a push and standing the offensive line up. Now, were they maybe giving it everything they've got on every single run play? Possibly not. It's a spring game. I get it. At the same time, hopefully that's not a cause for concern as we move into the actual season come August. But just for right now, for a spring game, that's really the only critique I could give the offense is just the run blocking.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know. I think the ball was on the carpet a lot too.
I figured I'd let somebody else cover that one.
But we talked about it upstairs when we were eating supper before we got down here, guys. I think that is just a product, obviously, of a new system.
Yeah.
Secondly, Rhule said it. There have been a lot of balls on the carpet during this spring, but these guys are learning. And, I don't know what you guys think, but I think most of these quarterbacks, if not all of them, along with the centers that they're working with, have basically predominantly worked out of the shotgun. They're not used to literally handing the ball off between their legs, and a quarterback's not used to receiving it that way. So, and it was colder than balls. So, it's pretty easy to see how the fumbles are going to happen. But, and I'm not as concerned about them because I think that's going to get cleaned up. And I think Rhule was biting his tongue for 4 quarters when he probably got into the locker room and he probably kicked some heads in verbally, not physically. But,
I didn't see a lot of issues white offense with the turnovers. And not, when I mean white offense, I mean the very first group of starters, because they were even rotating on that. But like one of the fumbles is a handoff that Richard Torres is doing where it hits the fullback going back to hand the ball off. You have things like that where I'm not going to jump too much on turnovers yet, because probably a lot of those turnovers were happening with guys that aren't probably going to be playing a lot next year. Yeah. And where I saw the bulk of those issues, it wasn't with that top group. We had a couple penalties with the top group, including one was a delay of game coming off of a stop ball or stop clock. So those are, it's early to say concerning, but those are things that need to be worked on. I know it's definitely concerning to Rhule, and he'll definitely, it's a coachable moment, but those would be little things like that.
Were there any other concerns? Anybody else have a concern besides the offensive line and the turnovers? Were there anything else that
mine was going to be turnovers? So,
okay. Yeah. A big guy that's athletic dropping the football wasn't. That was so painful to watch.
That was going to be my thing.
Gilbert,
there were definitely some underthrows and overthrows, but when there were balls that were within catching vicinity, they were more often than not dropped. Especially like one of the biggest blunders of the day offensively was watching Eric Gilbert just struggle. Because did he even get a single reception for the day?
No,
I think
he
was targeted
2, right?
He was targeted
twice. I don't think he was targeted again, even though he was open a couple more times.
Well, you mentioned, Ken, the weather conditions, and anyone who all went. I know you guys.
Oh
yeah, we were.
Were you guys?
I didn't go to the game. No, I just.
He was in the shelter. He was up under the.
Yeah, we were luckily just under club level. So
anyone that was there, at least you got the windbreak, right? It was poor conditions. And what did they talk about? Satterfield during the last couple months in Rhule. You're going to play in climactic conditions in the Big Ten and up in Nebraska. You got to be able to run the ball. And yesterday would have been a good example of a day where, we probably shouldn't be putting the ball up 40 times. Now, it's a spring game, so it's a totally different thing. But I like how they have put this team in bad conditions in some of the morning practices and said, hey, this is what it's going to be like against Wisconsin, against Iowa. We're not taking the team inside like PJ did up there yesterday. And we're gonna play real football outside. And they probably threw the ball around a little more than maybe they would if this was a real game in late October in those conditions.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I felt like they were preparing for those necessary game moments in late October, early November, where you're put up against the ropes, you're on your heels, and you've got to be able to make decent chunk yardage to get down to the field, and you can't just run the ball. You've got no timeouts left. It's 58 seconds left in the game. You got to start throwing the ball down the field. And then that makes perfect sense why they would prepare to do that. based on special teams. I mean, they were going for it so many times on fourth down when they were supposed to punt. It's like, why the hell not? Why the hell not practice?
Yeah, you got nothing to lose.
Full speed in a game environment when it's cold, when it's challenging.
Yep.
Let's do something to prepare for these moments that Nebraska seems to shoot themselves in the feet more often than not.
Situational football.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's the thing we've complained about for 5 years. Situational
Rhule's
football.
even come out and talked about that too. You know, when he's talking about our close games last year, he's like, I need to get these guys prepared for moments like that so that when they do come, they're not caught off guard. Like very much Belichick style. Situational football in practice all the time. So I love how Rhule is embracing that. He's seen where we came up short and is trying to implement those situations again to make sure it doesn't keep happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Real quick, do you guys notice what we didn't critique this year at all that we've done for 2 or 3 seasons, or if not more?
Probably special teams.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They looked honestly amazing to me. Couple misses, yeah, but that wasn't that into the wind.
Yeah, going into the
And
window.
those are tough.
that was our second string.
Those
kicker,
are tough.
right?
Well, that was back to Bleak Rose, but
Bleak
Oh,
Rose.
it was Bleak Rose?
Bleak
Okay.
Rose
kickers make 2 kicks.
he missed a 42-yarder going into that teeth of that wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his first one he made from 49, he literally started it out to the left of the goalpost and let the wind bring it back in. I'm like, man, I wish I could hit a draw like that with my 7-iron, but I
Right.
can't.
I wish they
So-
would adopt the kickoff rule like XFL has. The way they did it.
Where they're
It-
just
it
standing
is-
still
it is
till
gonna
it's
cut
caught.
down so many injuries. You've got them lined up 5 yards apart, and nobody can move until it is touched.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. You don't have gunners coming down full board trying to knock somebody's head off. It's perfect.
I
It's
wouldn't
like
be
starting from the
surprised
line
to
of
see.
scrimmage.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
XFL nailed it with that one.
Yeah.
They really
in the
did.
next 5 years.
Yes.
So.
Yep, absolutely. I completely. You know what? This is fun. I've not had a discussion about Husker football around a table like this since we used to do it at Thanksgiving all the time with family.
Yep.
And this is like hanging out with family, guys. This is really cool. So I think have we pretty satisfied with what we talked about on offense, or is there anything else that's burning somebody's brain?
I'm
they want
excited to talk about the defense.
All right. Yeah,
Oh,
me
yeah.
too. Let's move on then. So on to the defense. I'm going to kick this one off, and and it kind of ties into the offense because Scott and I kind of talked about the play on the way out of the stadium, that second catch that Billy Kemp made. Number 18, I don't know who it was on defense. He came around the edge. You know, he looked like he was just going to back the line, and right as it was snapping, he comes around the edge. Billy Kemp goes right to where he stopped, where he came from, and the ball was there immediately. And I just thought that was so good, but I loved watching the aggressiveness in the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Make the offense make a decision under pressure,
Yeah.
and they did not pull any stops yesterday. I think I hate the idea of not the Bob Diaco trend.
Oh,
Hey, I've got this badass 3-4, but we're going to play a really shitty 4-3 in the spring game and let a fourth string walk-on running back cram the ball down our throats for the last 2 quarters. So I don't miss that. I'm glad we were playing good on good. We were playing fast, and my goodness, MJ Sherman brings a freaking truck with him when he hits people.
Yeah.
Right. So Scott, you go ahead. Your first thoughts on the defense.
So my first thoughts on the defense, especially since we got offense out of the way, I just want to tie the two together to start this off with just like, when I look at our defense, if I were to take these two scenarios, if I'm chugging some Kool-Aid and I'm thinking best case scenario versus if I'm not chugging the Kool-Aid and I'm thinking about it with the most realistic possible lens I possibly can, with our given history and context of what we've had to deal with for the better half of a decade now, it's either our defense is looking pretty dang good and our offense is looking pretty dang average, or our defense is looking pretty dang average and our offense is looking like trash. And so with this offense, yes, like I think the first thing that comes to mind is MJ Sherman. He looks like what we thought we were putting our money into. So I am really, really excited for MJ Sherman. Yes, it looks like they're just playing with just bloodthirst. They look like they're hungry. They look like they're ready to just kill something. And I mean, it coincides with what they were saying in the press conferences earlier, like last week, I believe, where Rhule made a comment about that the defense is fine, like they found their way, and so they're just letting them play now. They're not having to coach them.
They're actually playing without the fear of failure or whatever,
yes.
like we wanted last regime.
Exactly. And obviously our offense was not. And so I think that there was definitely a disparity of where they are at in their current training cycle. I think the offense still has a little bit of ways to go. But yeah, one thing that I can say for sure is that our defense looks like they're coordinated. They look like they're one unit, and it felt natural. They just looked like a natural defensive unit. And I don't know any other way to describe it. It just looked so fluid. And so, like, if that's, let's just say, average at best, right? Like, let's say just in comparison to the Big Ten, we get into the season, we go like 6-6 or whatever. It turns out they're average. Well, it got us to 6-6, did it not? It got us to a bowl game. So you know what? If that's the result of that, then I'll take it. You know?
Yeah.
Bryan, what do you think?
They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Now, honestly, for me in football, that's a dish best served for a defense in any game. No offense wants to play in a cold game. You got the defense out there, they want to light you up. It fires them up even more. The colder it gets, the harder they're going to hit you. And that's what I think I saw yesterday. These guys just wanted to hit somebody. It didn't care who it was. They could have had a green jersey on. I don't think they would have cared.
Right.
And there was a lot of pads popping. I forget who receiver number 17 is, but when he got popped, he got popped and coughed that ball up. He didn't see him coming, for one.
Nope.
But sound football, sound technique. He got low and he put his hat on the ball. As soon as he turned around, that defense was flying around. Am I crazy about a 3-3-5? Absolutely not. I have grown up watching a 4-3. I'm sorry. I'm firmly believe you should have a defensive lineman for almost every offensive lineman. That way, to me, it seems right. I'm not a fan of a 3-3-5 at all, but they looked great running it yesterday. So I can't complain as of right now. They look like they've actually done something and improved.
Yep. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I like seeing was all the stunts. Going back to the aggressiveness, there was a lot of stunts. They're hitting those offensive linemen from crazy angles, which I find is going to be very advantageous for us because it's going to be really tough for the other team to prepare within a week for that.
Yeah.
So as long as we keep the other offense guessing like that on where we're coming from, we're gonna be pretty good that way. The other thing I really like was how much the young guys have already stepped up. Like Prince Will, a couple other guys.
I'm not going to try that last name.
No.
The guy over the intercom had a hell of a time doing it. He paused every time before he said
Same on television.
Yeah. They said we're just going to call him Prince Will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, I really like how the young guys that have just got here are already stepping up and looking good. So that's great for our future. And, again, going back to, you still got fall camp to improve too. So I think that's a very good sign for us. And to your point, Scott, about the defense being further along than the offense, I think that is a good sign.
Yeah.
I would be more concerned if the defense wasn't ahead or further ahead, because there's less to learn on a defense. I mean, I'm not trying to say that defense is easy by any means, and there's nothing to learn. But there's more to learn on offense. So it's great to see that they're further ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that take.
Honke?
Yeah, I think a lot of what you guys have said, the youth, I was surprised to see so much youth. Maverick and Princewell and Leonard was out there, very early on with that number 1D, ones versus ones. There were some good bodies out there, like seeing Rollins on the D line was impressive, or Togaloa, the tight end transfer.
Tua Tagovailoa, is that who you're talking about?
The tight end that switched positions over the D line. I mean, some of those guys, I don't know where they'll fall on the depth chart for next season, but I can see some good depth being built there, and that's how Rhule has traditionally done it as previous stops, is you see some guys moving around, changing positions, and start to get built up. Judy from the transfer from A&M, I thought looked really good out there. And that's one of those guys that, you're trying to find your two deep right now. Do you feel pretty solid two deep on the D line, on the O line? If you don't, then you probably try to go after a couple portal guys. And I don't think we need to go after the portal to try to go find a starter right now. I don't see an immediate, like, oh my gosh, we're in that kind of position. They may go after the portal for a immediate depth kind of guy for next season along the lines. They might. They also might not. I don't know yet. I'm not sold on that. And I think that as much as Rhule talks about wanting to be a developmental program, it's really hard to be a developmental program if you're bringing guys in May and June and expecting anything out of them in August. I don't think it says a lot for your program if you're doing that on a traditional year after year basis. He may feel the need to do it this season in year one. He may feel the need to build the bodies up one or two more, but I wasn't in any position looking at the D line going, oh my, or the O line, either way, going, oh man, we're hosed with bodies. We can't trot these guys out. I mean, we've got enough players. Yep.
Absolutely. I thought we were talking about it on the way out of the stadium, Scott. It seemed like every pass there was somebody in the face of the quarterback. Number one, and that move Jeff Sims made in the backfield, that spin, that
he didn't get anything out of it, but
Tommy Armstrong,
eyes in the back
because he'd do that all the time, and it was sweet. And then it seemed like every pass was pretty much contested. There was always a DB right there, so they knew where they needed to be. They knew where the offense was going. In many cases, it looked like to me. So, again, you guys are probably way better at the X's and O's than we are. We're 10,000-foot view guys. That's what we do. So that's why we have you here. You make us look better. But yeah, the youth on the defensive line surprised me. I was really surprised. And it turns out Reimer was concussed, so that's why you saw Jamari Butler and
Butler improved a lot.
And Snodgrass played
a lot. I DM'd his dad.
Hartzog had a good game. Hartzog did a great job.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick? Would you have ever thought, after watching that video of Harvard lighting up Isaac Gifford, that he would have led the team on defense in tackles for the spring game?
No.
He had the most tackles of anybody on the defense.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. But apparently Harburg never ran at him. I don't know, but so any other thoughts on the defense? Anybody else got a thought that popped in their head? I'm excited to see what Tony White does. I'm excited to see, because I wouldn't know a 3-3-5 if it was staring me in the face. I saw a lot of four guys, looked a lot like what Schnander was running.
Yeah.
In many ways, with one standing up on either end and three guys with their hands in the dirt, and they were getting after it. It was certainly way more aggressive than Schnander. Schnander's is that
bend don't break.
I think
bend don't break, read and react kind of deal.
I think schematically, we've probably been running some variation of a 3-3-5 basically ever since even Diaco got here.
Yeah.
Yep.
In some way or another, you either have 3 down linemen or you have 4. But I mean, when you bring an edge or a jack, whatever they call that guy now, they bring him up and he's in a 2-point stance, but he's right on the line. Then he's essentially it's a 4-man front at that point. But the guy I think about with that kind of position is Trev when he was here, because he was here in a 5-2 and he was clearly an outside linebacker stand up back in the day. Then they switch him. They switch defenses. They go to a 4-3. He puts his hand in the turf, and he's a D end and he's a rush guy, and that's it. He's not. He's 240. He didn't become a big defensive lineman guy, but he was a rush guy. And then he goes out and wins the Butkus Award. And I'm like, he never should have won the Butkus. That goes to an outside linebacker. He should have won the Lombardi Award that Grant Wistrom won 3 years later, playing the exact same position.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I liked about what McBride and them did with him back at that time was, you're a rush end. You're going to be you're not kind of playing back and forth. We're not going to drop you back into coverage. You think about when O'Shawn Mathis came here last year, and number 1 guy in the portal and all that, and he was playing that edge position, and he's going to be hand in the turf, maybe blitz, but then he'll drop back one time, and he's going to go back and forth. To me, I was just like, I think he's a good rusher. I would just I'd put his hand in the turf and just let him do that every single play. Yeah. And there we were 3-4 games in the season, and you're seeing him more times dropping back into zone. I'd look at a guy like Butler and some of those players, maybe even Sherman. I don't know. Sherman impressed just phically. He looks like a guy like I'd put his hand in the turf and let him rush.
Yeah.
Let him get in the backfield. And we call it 3-3-5, call it 4, call it whatever. I just
1-5-5.
I want that guy getting in the backfield and
keep it simple. Like some guys are just made to be see ball, get ball.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. I think before we started, you were talking about Dwayne Harris back in the day. It's like those are same guys that would have been outside linebacker / D ends back in those 4-3-5-2 days. Yep. I don't really want Dante Jones and Dwayne Harris going back in coverage and playing zone defense. I want to see them getting in the backfield and causing havoc. And so, you can do that out of any formation. The formation is just what they call it, I guess. But what are you doing with those guys? Are you bringing 4 guys consistently? Or are you doing these like cross dog blitzes that they did on one of the plays where, there were linebackers crisscrossing and everything. They showed enough. And I kind of like that too, because it's about us getting better. You're not trying to hide anything, for Christ's sakes.
No. We got nothing to hide at this point.
Tony White's only been a defensive coordinator for how many years now at the ACC and all that. He's got all that stuff's out there. It's not like he's coming here and changing everything he's ever done. We're going to run a lot of the same things that they did. So why don't we just run it really well? Why don't we run the stuff as well as Syracuse guys were running it by the end of his time there? If we do that, we'll probably be okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. So let's move on and give out a game ball or two. Each of us come up with a player on offense or defense that you think deserves your game ball. And we'll start with you, Mr. Andrew.
I'm going to go with Sims. I think Sims had a pretty good game, and I'm going to give him the ball.
All right.
Take the easy one.
And it's okay. We all can pick the same guy. That's fine. If that's you don't have to pick somebody different. So then that throws it to you, Bryan. Across the table, what you think?
Seriously, soft spot. I'm a running backs guy. I'm going with Rahmir. I know he didn't show anything too flashy and didn't break any big runs or anything like that. But the guy is not even close to the size of the other gentleman in that room. And he has no problem going between those tackles with everything. And he's damn near full speed by the time he hits that line.
Yep.
And he's coming with everything he's got. To me, Rahmir gets the game ball.
All right, Scott.
So I'm gonna go with MJ Sherman, and maybe it's just because I'm biased, but I'm just biased to having let's have the best possible defense we can get first, and then we can worry about offense later. And if we've got an edge rusher like an MJ Sherman who can get into the backfield of most of the Big Ten West, we're in contention to bite back at any one of those teams. So I'm going to go with MJ Sherman. He just looked like a freak of nature. So I was just really impressed with him.
All right. Honke.
Go with Janiran Bonner, the fullback, wide receiver, tight end, hybrid, everything. I guess they gave the game ball to Frank right after he ran that first play. So it's even appropriate for that. But they ran some ISOs where, he was a lead blocking fullback. It's one thing just to hand the ball off to him and almost kind of a gimmicky, kind of like put the small, fast guy in there and let him run the ball. But no, he was in there on lead blocks, taking on a linebacker. And I wouldn't say it was always great for him. He's undersized in some of that role, but he stuck his head in there. He wasn't afraid to do that, and he didn't back down from doing that. So, they're serious about putting a fullback out there at times. I loved how serious they were about getting under center at times. I loved seeing a huddle again. Let's not have communication errors that we've heard for years and years and years. There's ways to get around that. Maybe slow down for a second, make sure everyone knows what they're doing. And they did that, and it's baby steps, but that it started with the fullback. It starts with getting bigger personnel out there. It starts with running the ball a little bit more. It starts with huddling, all those things. And I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. I'm with you. I wanted to say MJ Sherman. I wanted to say Rahmir. Jeff Sims was the first one that came to mind for me.
Yeah, Sims is.
But I've been dying to see a fullback. I've been dying to see a guy come back that you just know that the defense has to prepare for. And Janiran is not just a guy that's willing to stick his nose in there, or he's willing to take the ball and run it between the tackles. He can split out. He's got enough zip that he can get popped open, or he can motion out of the backfield, start off in an eye and then motion that fullback out into the slot. And then the D coordinator's up there going, wait a minute, I just put a big package in. Oh, shoot. So there's some mismatches you could create with him. So yeah, Janarin Bonner for me gets the game ball.
Who I thought had the best quiet game was Borkacher.
Oh yeah,
the tight end, and I might be a little biased because the kid's from Aurora, but but I definitely thought he had a nice quiet game.
Yeah. So I thought, there's a lot of, now we could just throw a whole bunch of names, but I thought Snodgrass played a really good game out there. I said Judy earlier. A lot of those defensive lineman guys, Rollins and Princewell, you were hearing their names, and Leonard. There's a lot of guys that were. I just thought let's also take for a second and appreciate that 60,000 people showed up.
Oh yeah.
And this is the first opportunity. And it's one of the best things that Nebraska can do for its players is that you're brand new to college football. You're a 18-year-old, should still be a high school senior. And this is your first time to play in front of a crowd, but you get to do it in April. And we get film of you in front of that. Go and look at Richard Torres out there at quarterback, and we're shaking a little bit. We're hitting the fullback instead of the running back and fumbling the ball. Some of this is they're young guys, and we're all guilty of this as fans. Is we immediately go, "Oh, that guy's terrible. Yeah, that guy's going to go in the portal. Oh, that guy should be gone." Even AJ Allen. Oh my gosh, he fumbled. AJ Allen was in high school a year ago. Right now,
right?
This is really just the end of what would have traditionally been a redshirt year. And I know, Ken, we were at the Pipeline event on Friday night with Hale Varsity Club, and there's Brendan Steid. What asked the question about what made you guys such a great line back then? It was, hey, you got developed. I was behind Will Shields for 2 or 3 years. And it was back in the day when we weren't afraid to develop. I don't want to walk away from the spring game. I don't want anyone watching it to walk away from it and go, that one guy fumbled, he should be gone. Oh, right. I hope that guy goes in the portal because he dropped a pass. It's like some of this is development for these guys. They're still young, but they got an opportunity to come here. I think it was the 3rd biggest spring game in the country behind
Ohio State and Penn State.
Wow. Yep. Bigger than Alabama's, all that, bigger than even Colorado's. and here's an opportunity. It's bigger than most people. If we had 60,000 people there, it's bigger than a lot of stadiums.
It is.
In regular season.
In regular season. And these kids get to come in here and play in front of that kind of crowd. And as a coach, I want to see mistakes. I don't want a perfect game,
right?
Because
you got to have something to correct.
I think Rhule walks away from it I think he hates the fumbles, but I think he secretly loves them too, because they happened here.
Teaching moments.
We played real football. How about that? Is the game ball goes to playing real football. We played real football, and real football things happened, and now we got to get better at those things. Yeah. But we would always find those things out in the past in August or in September or in October, and it's like, well, shit, that's too late.
Yeah. Don't catch that punt in the end zone, Cam Taylor, please.
Let's get out of August, with a victory this year,
Absolutely. Well, doggone it, that was fun. That was fun talking about the spring game, but for me, I don't know about you guys, but my eyes weren't sweating at all when Frank was introduced at halftime.
I had a little jalapeno in my nose, I think. Something
nose started running, and
allergies.
It was
cold.
It was.
And I don't know, just the fact that Trev took the time to get on a microphone and actually say something publicly about this, and it just wasn't a hi, how you doing, handshake, wave to the crowd, and off you go, and then hand the mic to Frank, who does the most Frank Solich thing you can possibly do, and at the end he's like, well, I guess go Big Red and whatnot. And he's so nonchalant, and he's just so humble. And then to see him get so emotional when it's revealed that the locker room is being named after him. Just one of the most amazing things I've experienced in Memorial Stadium in a long, long time. Because I was on the bandwagon back in the day of, no, this guy's winning 9 games a year. Give him a chance to develop as a coach. I was not in the fire Frank Solich at all. And I fought with people tooth and nail on message boards, which is like the dumbest place to carry out. It's like social media, but with neck beards like Reddit, right? And it's just, oh Lord Almighty, we righted a wrong yesterday. And I thought that was really important. So we'll start with you, Scott, because you were busy stuffing your face or getting stuff to stuff your face with when all that was going on. But I think you caught it in TVs downstairs, didn't you?
A little bit. I was trying to work my way up the ramps to get up to our seats. So I actually kind of missed quite a bit of it, unfortunately. So I didn't get to watch hardly any of it. So I'm the last person to ask this question too.
Oh, don't worry, we got to post it on Twitter for you if you want to check it out.
Yeah, that's why I asked you first, because I'm a dad and I can be a dick like that sometimes. My apologies, son.
No. It's fine. I think regardless if I got to see it or not, I forgot to watch it before we started today. But I mean, I think I think we righted a wrong. I think that it was what the Husker fan base needed to kind of close a chapter that just felt like it was just vaguely open. Didn't feel like there was true closure for it.
Very well put.
And so the fact that they did that just kind of got rid of a boogeyman that had just been kind of floating around in the ether of Husker fans' hearts. And so that alone is worth $1 million. And
absolutely.
And I'm happy that he was willing to participate, because I mean that's probably still a subject that hurts a bit to think about. So,
Bryan,
it's well deserved and long overdue. I mean, Ken, I'm with you. I mean, I didn't have dry eyes watching that tribute. I didn't at all. To see Frank out on that field again after all this time, I took probably the biggest sigh of relief when he got to that 50-yard line. Just that it finally happened. And it felt like welcoming a long-lost relative back in. They've been missing for 5+ years or however long Frank was gone. I mean, it was like welcoming home somebody you just have been wanting to see forever. And it almost like a soldier coming home almost. It felt that way. I'm not going to compare that.
Well, he was here for 30 years as a player, assistant, and head coach. I mean, that's and
to see the 45 painted on the field.
That was going to be mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. To see the 45 in the font that was on his jersey. I had a couple guys up where we were sitting asking. I'm like, all right, damn it, I'm going to have to let him know. Yeah, that's Solich's number. And that's exactly how it was written on the jersey. It was a great tribute and well-deserved. And like I said, long overdue.
It was interesting when I saw that pop up on Twitter that they had done that on the field. It was done in such a way you looked at it and you went, oh, please tell me this isn't some jerk photoshopping the field. You know, and then I walked into the stadium and my voice caught. I was chatting with my wife or whatever, and I looked and I'm like, oh my God, the number. And then she saw it. She goes, I saw you post it on Twitter. I thought somebody might have photoshopped that. So I was like, I wasn't the only one thinking that.
Not the same thing.
I know he just stole your thunder there, Tej, but go ahead.
I really just real classy overall on the way that Trev went about doing all this. Even from just getting him to come in the first place with telling them, because Frank was reluctant, didn't want to do it. And he's like, you ever think maybe you need to do it for the fans, like not even just necessarily for yourself, like doing it for the fans. And then between the number and the surprise with the locker room and putting on their former player, assistant coach, right? Because really embracing the whole, what's the word looking for? The wholeness that he was at Nebraska, as not just being
homegrown.
The head coach for a few years.
Everything about it was
he was part
Nebraska
of Devaney's first recruiting class.
Exactly.
The modern era of Nebraska football started when he came here.
Absolutely.
So I just really liked everything as a whole. So it's good
stuff.
Awesome. And Honke, finish up with you.
We were fortunate enough a year ago to have Coach Osborne on the show. And when I asked him, I was talking to him about his coaching staff and all the great names and the McBrides and the Darlingtons. And as I was going through it, I said Solich, and I turned to Mac and I go, and he's never gotten the official send off the way he should have here. Well, I can go back and edit that now. He has gotten that. It's well deserved. It's long overdue. It was great to see them do the thing with the locker room with him. And I just think for Trev, it's one more thing that he's done here over the last just since he started, that he has a really good pulse on on Husker Nation, what we want, what we're asking for, whether he solicits that through surveys or if it's just him, being able to read the room. That it's important that we wanted Herbie. It's important that we wanted Solich back. Maybe we can have beers and PBA, and you can go down the list. And he's listening. And maybe it can't all happen tomorrow, but it doesn't mean that it's because they're sitting up in an office and they don't care who you are. They're at their ranch. It's not
falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, they're not at their ranch in Washington, and you can't find them. I mean, he's out there. He's paying attention. He's listening, and it was well done by them. So I applaud them big time.
That press conference with Solich the day before was really good too. They asked him about the curse and whatnot, and his response, well, I guess you can say it's over now. So understated, but at the same time, it's his way of acknowledging, y'all kind of screwed me over.
Didn't he almost seem like he didn't know what the curse was about? It almost seemed like he thought we meant he put a curse on us. No, it's our fault, Frank. We did it.
Well,
that's our bad, man.
Well, there was another interview I think I read or something that he was interviewed shortly after he accepted the invitation to come back. And somebody asked him about the curse, and he goes, well, believe me, if I had the power to put a curse, there was somebody else I'd have sent it to first. And I was like, we know who that is.
Think about it. For 25 years, Osborne never lost more than 3 games. 3 was the max.
Right.
Never lost more than that. In 2003, Solich gets canned at 9-3. The team eventually wins in the bowl game,
Michigan
goes 10-3. And we don't want to gravitate to mediocrity. And for the 20 seasons since, we have never lost less than 4 games. We've lost 4 or more games every season since we didn't want to gravitate to mediocrity, the same record that we were firing the coach of at that very moment. I've said this several times the last few weeks because Solich has come up enough. We even talked about beforehand. I don't want to rewrite history. I didn't want him fired, but I understood it at the moment. I could justify it. I also thought we were probably going to go out and get some great hire, and it was all going to be great. Flat, I was wrong. I mean, I can now look back and say I was absolutely wrong, and these are teachable moments for fans, and I get what was going through my head at the time. But I think when people want to find curses, it's not hard to find the point in time where this program, there was a before and after, and that was clearly it. So I'm glad that they did it.
Ladies
I'm glad
and
that they did
gentlemen,
what they did yesterday. Yes. Not that they did it.
A historic moment has occurred in Husker Podcast land, and that is Honke admitted being wrong. I'm kidding, buddy. I'm kidding.
That's all right.
So you mentioned Herbie, which is the next thing I want to talk about is the new Herbie, the new old Herbie. Looks like the Herbie that's actually doing some ab crunches.
And he has mumps.
He's got mumps, but he doesn't have that stupid George Clooney cleft chin anymore.
No.
Freaking poser. As the NBNR guys put it so eloquently, may you rest in piss or whatever. You poser. I thought that was pretty funny. Shout out to those guys. We got to run into them at the Pipeline event, and they were really cool. So
good dudes.
Good dudes. Yeah, absolutely. So Herbie's back. The Herbie that we all deserve. They gave him the sharp-dressed man treatment, which I thought was great. My wife loved it. She was like, "Oh, that's the perfect song." And yeah, there's nothing better than overalls and corn hanging out your pocket. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes.
I mean, and he's got a little bit of maybe he's drinking, I don't know, Michelob Ultra now instead of Bud Heavies or whatever it is. But yeah, he looks like he's working out a bit. And you, Scott, were around, kind of started really growing into your Husker fandom about the time they changed Herbie. Yep, and I remember watching that game. It was Oklahoma State 2003. The Walk of Champions, remember, with all the old players walking into the stadium, and they showed it online. And then they introduced this new Herbie, the new slim for the future. And then this dude jumps out of the car and the stadium went. It was like everybody went, what the hell is this? And what are you doing here? And that's kind of one of the moments that I went, boy, Frank better win a title if they're changing Herbie to this because they don't like the big, slow Nebraska traditional Herbie. They're probably not going to like the traditional offense that you're running either. So you might want to win a few more games than you've been winning.
Now, could you kind of attribute that unveiling to lack of social media back then? Because Trev was really able to put a package together and everything for this new Herbie, put it out there on Twitter, Facebook, everything. Yeah. And gave us a chance to get excited. We knew this was coming.
Build it up.
We just wanted to see what it was. The other one's kind of just a cold open. It just
you knew it was coming. They made an announcement that the new mascot was going to be revealed. But everybody, and all you heard leading up to it was it's going to be a sleeker, more modern version. Well, that modern offense sure worked out for us too a couple years later. But what did you think, Scott?
Well, I thought it was cool. As a blonde myself, I'm always sympathetic for when I get my representation in the pop culture realm of things. So, the overalls, I would say it's a modernization, but in the proper way. Like, if that's what they would have done back in the day when they went to modernize Herbie Husker, and they would have just went to that, where it keeps the soul of the iconic image, and then just make some minor tweaks that are a little bit more up to par with just decal production quality and all that stuff. That's what they should have done to begin with. So it's great that they were able to do it. And I mean, Trev is he's just getting the money every single time with all these decisions. I mean, dude, if he isn't going to Vegas and also like putting big money down so that he can stretch his luck and maybe gain a few bucks in the process, props to him for the self-control. Cause I mean, he just keeps getting hit after hit after hit. And it's been phenomenal. Love the new Herbie Husker. Love it. Nothing to really not like nothing to not like about it.
All right, Bryan.
Well, we got a Herbie back that I remember, most of us can remember. This is something I was never a fan of when they changed him up. I wasn't. I grew up with the overalls Herbie. It was never Harry Husker. I don't know who the hell started that. Never been Harry Husker. It's Herbie. I couldn't have been more happy for this. And when he came out on that tractor, first of all, when I heard the horn, it scared the hell out of me because I didn't know where. I couldn't see the tunnel too clearly. And then I heard the horn and then saw him rolling out with, what are we going to call those cannons, by the way?
I don't know.
I asked on Twitter and nobody, Derweener Sling or something was something somebody gave us, but it was amazing. I haven't been this excited to see a mascot in my entire life, period. No, I mean, Little Red, all right. Look, you've got Daddy Herbie back. He's going to keep you in your place. You don't need to go anywhere, but you do need to be kept in your place. And just Daddy Herbie's back. It's great to see.
Andrew.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. Definitely more of a fan than old Herbie. To your point, that's what I grew up with. Even I see like you have it on your hat right there.
Oh, yeah.
The only time I ever bought Husker gear that actually had a Herbie on it was that Herbie. Never bought any with, brown haired Herbie. So, yeah, to me, I mean, it's okay to utilize that old tradition and using him without saying, oh, we're still living in the 90s. Like, It's okay to admit that we made a mistake on this Herbie and go back to what we had before. So yeah, I just don't want the narrative to be out there to be like, oh my God, here we go again, trying to recapture the 90s. No, it's okay to bring it back and admit that you made a mistake on the other one. So yeah, I'm a fan of it.
Honke.
Yeah, I'm happy.
What more can we say?
What more can I say? I think it was a good move. Just another good move by Trev there.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
So that leads us to the final question that we need to answer tonight. Is the curse over?
Yeah.
We're back.
We just buried that thing to the
Here comes 10
core.
wins, baby. Right? Is that what you're saying?
You guys can't ask me that. You know what answer I'm going to give. Every season, I'm telling you, we're going to be in the national title. All right? I don't care.
Sure.
Crazy things happen every year. You get a team that has a Cinderella season. Why can't it be us?
Would be nice.
It's been so long. Just give us one for now.
I think what's interesting is like the curse was tied around a coach, around Frank, right. And Frank is, Frank's pretty frank when he talks. And I don't think he doesn't think in terms of curses, right? He thinks in terms of coaching, and the curse that we have hasn't been him being fired or this AD or that AD. The curse has been making mistakes on the field, turning the ball over, fumbling, and all those things. I think the curse is broken when I see us huddling up and when I see us lining up under center, and when and when you start to see the things that are being said off the field being applied to the field. So we still haven't played a single game under Matt Rhule, right? But yesterday was one of those opportunities to start to see is what he's saying actually being applied out there. And we kind of talked about that before we went on, where it's like, I'd have been extremely disappointed if we had just heard, 4, 5, 6 months of everything we've heard, which has gotten us all excited. And then we turn out yesterday and quarterbacks have green jerseys on. We're not hitting them. We're thudding. We're, and not doing real special teams and all that. Be like, well, what the hell? Come on. That's, if I've gotten jaded at any point as a fan, I tend to stay pretty positive on things, but if I've gotten jaded, it's don't tell us one thing. Don't do the Bob Diaco thing of like, oh, hey, all of a sudden, we're going to come out and run something we've never done. To see real football and to see real blitzes and to see real blitz pickups and to see real mistakes, but real good plays being made by guys too. That's exactly what I want to see. And I can't promise that we're going to go back to going 16-3 in 5 years. I mean, that's an unreal expectation for anyone, but the expectation of Nebraska football being relevant and national and ranked and 9 wins and up, that is absolutely within should be the expectations of this program as a whole. And doing those things that they're doing is what's going to get us there. As much as I love the Herbies, by the way, and bringing Solich back to, I'm so glad we did. But that's not even going to get us there. What's going to get us there is all the stuff that Coach Rhule's doing. And I was pleased to see the football part of it.
Yep.
And I loved it. It was cold. Hell with it. Fine. Fine. It's Nebraska.
That's right.
We still get a kid from Miami to commit that morning. Why not? Who cares?
Right. Willis McGahee's son.
That is, you want to talk about some full circle stuff right there. The last time we were good, his dad was running all over us in the 2001 Rose Bowl.
That's right.
And now he's got to wear Husker red to watch his kid play.
I love it. Love it.
That is the best. That is absolutely.
They brought all the freshman guys, the freshman class out at halftime and introduced them.
I was meaning to bring that up because that was just another highlight of the spring game that I just loved. They got the whole signing class for the 2023. Every one of them out on the field.
And I screw up the name every time, but Smith, the kid from Texas, that's Iowa Legacy.
I know what you're talking
about. But the kid's at Iowa Legacy. His dad's like in the ring of honor for Iowa, and he's coming here. Bob Wager, of course, was his coach down there at Arlington. But so he just comes up here, and now he's part of the class. And I don't remember ever seeing a whole class like that being honored before. So again, Trev and Coach Rhule too, having a pulse of Husker Nation. The spring game is supposed to be a positive day. I mean, you better not lose the spring game. This is an opportunity to walk away with just nothing but positives. And I mean, we've got the recruiting class showing up, and people are walking away with a smile. It's frozen on their face because it was 20 degrees out, but it's a smile. And that's a better thing than a frown being frozen on.
Absolutely, it was so enjoyable to just see. Trev talked about intentionality back when he fired Frost. Talked about intentionality, talked about grinding. He talked about everybody pulling in the same direction. When Matt Rhule gets here, he's parroting the same concepts, and he's walking what he's saying. And the coaches are walking what he's saying and saying the same things. Everything about yesterday's game was intentional. From the opening moment, few moments we get in the stadium, and there's that long announcement about safety, about picking up your trash, about if you see anything going on that's suspect, go and get this security person. Watch out, there's going to be pyrotechnics, there's going to be flashing lights. If you have a sensitivity to that, you might want to cover your eyes or protect your ears. All that was intentional. Then the game itself was intentional in that we intended to play freaking football today, and they did. And there was an intentionality about halftime, bringing Frank out, not just bringing him out, but handing him a mic and giving him a chance to say a few words. And being intentional about surprising him. Everything that this program is doing is intentional. And I think the rest, I just hope that a lot of this same feeling and a lot of this same hopefulness starts to permeate like the baseball team, because they're struggling right now. Basketball team, I think there was a Rhule effect with the basketball team. being around the program with that intentionality that he has in everything he does, I think rubbed off on those kids too. And I hope that when we get to the season that we see some fruit, that we see, you know what, situational football is going to happen in August, and it's going to happen in Minneapolis. There will be situations, there will be adversity. What will this team do that first moment that something hits that replays some old tapes from last year and the year before? What do? That's where I think the intentionality comes in. That's where I think the practicing situational football constantly will change some of those things. It has to.
Yeah.
It's got to rewire their brain, rewire their response mechanisms.
You know, maybe a player of the game on defense in this sense was, I think, tackling. You could just say tackling was so good. Why
there
is
were great open field tackles.
Why is tackling improving? Because you're tackling.
Yeah.
And I remember someone
Crazy concept.
I remember someone asking me, it was about 4 or 5 months ago, and it was about some of the linemen and, well, how are they going to play that first time they go up against, some 350-pound dude at Minnesota? Well, if that's the first time that they're lining up and making that kind of contact, then that's a real problem, because we just wasted an entire offseason, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that. It's what are you doing day by day? I mean, it's down to that kind of level. Coach Rhule would talk about that a few months ago. Players, even before they were going through the offseason, oh, you wanted to go to a bowl game. He's like, bowl game? I just want you getting to the locker or to the weight room today. Worry about bowl games later. We'll get there.
Playoffs.
We'll get there, but it's about doing this thing today. And you do those things right. You practice right. You're physical.
How about you warm up right? How was that different on Saturday? You weren't there. That was like watching Oklahoma warm up when they were in the stadium last year. Because I watched that. We were sitting up in the 600s for Oklahoma and watching them warm up. And I'm watching our team at the other end just kind of doing this amoeba thing of doing whatever they're doing to warm up. They didn't even stretch really, and I'm sitting there going, so they were doing that yesterday. They're doing the laying on their back, stretching the legs and everybody was doing it together. And I'm like, yeah, we've changed. There's more intentionality. Like I said, I hate that word.
Well, the patients aren't running the asylum anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No. So, man, this was fun, guys. This was absolutely. I thought we might go longer than this. We actually got done fairly quickly. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Right at an hour. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, we didn't talk about the pipeline event, which probably we could go for a half hour on that. There was some stories. I tell you what, that was just so enjoyable. But you guys weren't there, so it'd be kind of useless to talk about. You'd be kind of sitting there going, "Yeah, okay, great, awesome. Just keep making us feel worse." Yeah. So
I was at work Friday night. Yeah, rub it
in. So starting with you, Bryan, where can folks find the Husker Army podcast out there on the interwebs? I know, just as you took a sip, because I'm just that guy.
Mind. Yeah, this bubbly water, man. I don't know. Never tried it before. Not half bad. Pretty easy to find us. Twitter, Instagram at Husker Army Pod. Don't really worry about my personal account. I save that to follow my Brahmas in the XFL and a different podcast. I'm gonna start back up soon. So
cool.
Just Husker Army Pod. Check us out. Follow us. Check us out on YouTube. Husker Army Podcast. Just Google it. I can't believe how easily it pops right up. I was surprised.
Yeah.
So
it is amazing. YouTube is the one that really drives it.
And on Facebook, definitely check out Husker Army fan page. Matthew Malone, he's the one that helped us go ahead with the name for Husker Army, allowed us to use it. As long as we're kind of careful with some of our language.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming. This has been an absolute. It's an absolute blast. Andrew, how do they find you and your cohorts? And hey, by the way, proud of you. Not a single F-bomb tonight.
Right?
You are
awesome. Constrained, controlled, like a...
Well, see, he's not drinking.
Like a night and day different person on this one, Definitely different than last night.
Oh, for sure. My ears were burning.
Yeah. But no, you can find me on Twitter at Big Red and More too. We do have Facebook page, Big Red and More Podcast. And then on anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. So check us out.
Honke.
Go Big Redcast at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And I think we're trying to start up TikTok, although I'm specifically not in charge of that. I don't want any part of that. But
don't blame you.
Mac is doing some stuff with YouTube Shorts now, so I think it can transfer over.
Yep.
So
They can
we're trying to
those.
play around with that. So anyways,
YouTube Shorts. That's just the weirdest name in the world. I can't like shorts. Well, you wear short pants and do videos, or what's the anyway? Scott, sorry, my stupid old man sense of humor. But go ahead.
Hey guys. Okay, so I'm Scott. Hi. You can follow me on Twitter at ScottGenRedPod. That is Scott with 2 T's. The second T is in fact silent. You can follow me there. I just post a bunch of just goofy stuff in the off season. If you want to see a turd that somehow somebody squeezed out in one of the pee troughs,
I saw that you posted
at Memorial Stadium. Somebody took a dump in the Memorial Stadium piss trough. So yeah, follow me on Twitter and go take a gander at that. Whoever it was clearly they were getting fiber, and
it was very like
it was a
Bill
healthy,
Murray Caddyshack. Like I mean, like it was.
I almost thought it was one of those fake ones you could buy,
like
but based on the fact
Baby
that
Ruth?
it just that it just reeked of shit. It was like, yeah, this is definitely a turd.
I actually did zoom in on it.
Yeah, you've got it.
You kind of have to once you see it.
When you're on Twitter, you got to make sure you're getting the good quality bullshit.
What kind of cojones does it take to try that?
Dude, that's either somebody who really hates us.
We're
my
still
guess
live?
is there was a lot of
call in if he's
no, we don't have
chance?
a call-in capability yet, and that's a whole
we do have
another
few comments.
Yeah, we've got a couple. We've got a couple, and in fact, we got a new one just now. We only had like 4 for quite a while.
That sounds about
right. But hey, awesome, great discussion, fellas, from Anthony Hayek. Is that how I say that?
Yep.
Cool. So he must be.
He is related to Mac.
Okay.
And then we had Del Richmond there.
Yeah.
Del, he was just.
He was just on your forum. I have not listened to that show yet. Nice. Sorry, Del.
Yep.
I missed it that night too. So
thank you guys so much for participating.
Yeah, dudes, this
wife
has been
up there, Anisha.
Okay.
With the heart there. Thank you, baby. I love you.
You're awesome. Thank you for putting up with him.
Oh, you had no idea.
And then letting us have him for. I'm sure you feel better because he's not there.
Has gone through the things she's seen. I feel so bad for her.
The therapy she needs.
Oh, yeah, she's already in it.
I hear you. Anyway, for our show, you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at GenRedPod, as well as GenRedPod on YouTube, or do a search for Generation Red on your favorite podcast app, and you will find us. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a rating and a review. Do the same thing for all of these guys. Leave their shows, ratings, and reviews. It helps folks find their shows on those podcast apps, as well as if you like their videos on YouTube. It helps it get pushed out to other places. So, hey, with that, Honke, Andrew, Bryan, guys, this has been an absolute hoot, and I really appreciate it. And definitely do this again. Do another one of these.
Thanks for having us.
By the way,
thanks for dinner.
Dinner, one of the most amazing podcast studios I think I've seen.
Yeah, very nice.
Well, amazing. When I saw Rob Zadiska, I had my Sorry Dave t-shirt on, which is a thing from his show, right? Well, I get up there, and he's going to sign stuff, and he just starts doing this with his I'm like, and then he had his red Sorry Dave shirt on. So then he took a picture with me of it.
I saw you post
that. And then I showed him a picture of the studio. I said, now really, you have to sit in the basement in Omaha with a dude that's an Iowa fan. Don't you think you'd rather do that here?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, dude, that's awesome. I would love to.
Get him in here, Ken.
Yeah, it'd be fun. That would be a lot of fun. So if you're watching, probably not, but tonight
they did a show. They did a show today at Cross Train Brewery in Omaha. They did a live one there.
They can put away the beer. So
good dudes.
Anyway, for you guys, thanks again so much. Appreciate everything. He's Scott. I'm Ken. Together we're Generation Red. We're here to remind you every week that our pod burns redder.
Yes. Iowa's corn sucks. Shot glasses filled with sweat, and they make a margarita out of it. And that's basically how Iowa's corn functions.
Maybe it sucks on the end of a turd found in a piss trough. I don't know.
Could be one of those things.
We are out of here. I have no outro video. So
Go Big Red.
We will say goodbye.
Go Big Red.
Big Red.